You can do something well. Hear someone say, "You did a great job," and still feel your mind reject it before you even have a chance to receive it. Maybe they are just being nice. Maybe they did not see the mistakes. Maybe if they really knew how much you struggled, they would not be so impressed. From the outside, this can look like humility. It can look like you are just hard on yourself, or careful, or realistic. But sometimes the problem is not that you cannot hear praise. The problem is that praise does not match the way you secretly see yourself. Self hatred does not always sound like, "I hate myself." Sometimes it sounds much quieter. It sounds like, "I do not deserve this. I should not bother anyone. I will probably ruin it. People like me do not get things like that." And because those thoughts feel familiar, you may not question them. You may even mistake them for truth. One of the clearest signs is that you tear yourself down in ways you would never allow someone else to be treated. You make one small mistake, and your mind turns it into a full judgment of who you are. You forget one thing, say one awkward sentence, miss one opportunity, and suddenly it is not just a mistake anymore. It becomes evidence. Evidence that you are not smart enough, not disciplined enough, not attractive enough, not lovable enough, not the kind of person who deserves to feel proud. And the painful part is that this voice may not even sound cruel to you anymore. It may sound normal. It may sound like discipline. It may sound like accountability. But accountability helps you grow. Self-hatred only keeps you trapped in the same old conclusion that something is wrong with you. Another sign is that being around other people makes you feel smaller, even when they have done nothing to hurt you. You see someone who is confident, successful, attractive, calm, or loved, and your mind immediately begins comparing. Not in a neutral way, in a way that makes you feel like their existence proves your lack. They have something you do not. They are becoming something you are not. They seem to move through life with a permission you never learned how to give yourself. So instead of feeling inspired, you feel exposed. Their confidence makes you aware of your shame. Their happiness makes you notice how uncomfortable you are with your own. Their success does not simply look like success. It starts to feel like a mirror showing you everything you think you are missing. This is not just insecurity. It is what happens when your self-worth is so fragile that other people's lives start to feel like evidence against yours. Self-hatred can also show up in the way you take care of yourself, or fail to. You may take care of other people almost automatically. You remember what they need. You worry when they are tired. You want them to eat, rest, feel supported, and feel loved. But when it comes to yourself, the rules change. You delay rest. You ignore your body. You skip the things that make you feel human. You let your space, your health, your appearance, or your basic needs fall to the bottom of the list, and you tell yourself you are just busy. But sometimes neglect is not only about time. Sometimes it reveals who you believe is worth protecting. If someone you loved was exhausted, you would not tell them to keep proving their worth before they were allowed to rest. But when it is you, rest can feel undeserved. Comfort can feel unnecessary. Care can feel like something you have to earn. That is where self-hatred becomes quiet but powerful. It does not always destroy you loudly. Sometimes it simply convinces you not to treat yourself like someone who matters. Another sign is that you do not fully let yourself be happy. Good moments may make you uneasy. Compliments may feel suspicious. Help may feel uncomfortable. If someone is kind to you, part of you may look for the hidden reason. If life becomes peaceful for a moment, your mind may start waiting for something to go wrong. This is because self-hatred creates a filter. Kindness gets questioned. Criticism gets believed. If someone says something good about you, your mind says, they do not really mean it. But if someone says something painful, even once your mind says, that is the truth. If you succeed, you got lucky. If you fail, that is who you are. If someone stays, they do not know you well enough yet. If someone leaves, your mind says, see, I knew it. The problem is not simply that you think negatively. The problem is that your mind has learned to protect an old story about you. And anything that challenges that story feels unsafe. This is why love can feel like pressure. You may want connection, but when people actually care, you feel guilty. A friend texts you to ask if you are okay, and instead of feeling comforted, you feel like you now have to manage their concern. Someone invites you somewhere, and before you can feel wanted, you wonder if they are only being polite. Someone gets close, and you start worrying that they will be disappointed once they see the real you. So you pull away, not because you do not care, not because you do not need anyone, but because being cared for touches the part of you that believes your presence is a burden. You may tell yourself people are better off without you. You may cancel plans before you can feel unwanted. You may stay quiet because you do not want to take up space. And from the outside, this can look like distance, but underneath it may be shame trying to protect you from the pain of being rejected later. Then there is the mask. The version of you people see may not be false exactly, but it may be edited. A little easier, a little funnier, a little less needy, a little less complicated. You learn how to be acceptable before you learn how to be honest. You smile when you're not okay. You say, "I'm fine," quickly so no one has to ask again. You become the person who listens, helps, supports, and keeps things light, while the more fragile parts of you stay hidden. Some people might call that fake, but that misses the point. A mask is not always proof that someone is trying to deceive people. Sometimes it is proof that they once learned their real self was not safe to show. The mask protects you from rejection, but it also creates a deeper loneliness. Because if people love the version you perform, you still do not know whether they could love the version you hide. Self-hatred also changes the way you dream. You may have things you want, but you shrink them before anyone else can. You say you are being realistic. You say you do not want to disappoint yourself. You say it is better not to expect too much. But sometimes what you call realism is not realism. It is fear speaking in a reasonable voice. Because wanting something makes you vulnerable. Trying means there is a chance to fail. And if you already believe you are not enough, failure does not just feel painful. It feels like confirmation. So you avoid the dream before the dream can reject you. You stay in the smaller life not because it feels good, but because it feels safer than hoping. This is how self-hatred becomes more than a feeling. It becomes a system. It affects how you receive praise, how you compare yourself, how you care for your body, how you handle love, how much of yourself you show, and how much future you allow yourself to imagine. So the first shift is not to force yourself to suddenly love everything about who you are. That may be too far away. And if you have spent years living through shame, just love yourself can feel like another impossible task. A more honest place to begin is with a smaller question. Instead of asking, "How do I love myself?" ask, "What am I refusing to receive because it does not match the way I learned to see myself?" Maybe it is a compliment. Maybe it is help. Maybe it is rest. Maybe it is someone's affection. Maybe it is an opportunity. Maybe it is a dream you keep killing too early. You do not have to believe every good thing immediately. You do not have to become confident overnight. But you can start noticing the moment where your mind tries to reject something kind before it reaches you. That moment matters because the shift begins when you stop treating every good thing as a mistake that somehow slipped through. You may not fully believe you are worthy yet, but you can stop confusing familiar shame with truth. A thought can be familiar and still be unfair. A fear can be old and still be inaccurate. A belief can feel like part of you and still be something you learned. Maybe the goal is not to become a completely different person overnight. Maybe it is to stop proving again and again that you deserve less than other people, to say thank you without immediately insulting yourself, to let someone care without assuming you are a burden, to rest without turning it into guilt, to let a dream exist for a little longer before you decide it is impossible. Self-hatred does not always sound like hate. Sometimes it sounds like, "I should not bother them. They're just being nice. I do not deserve this. I am better off alone. I should not want too much." And maybe the first sign of healing is not that you suddenly love yourself. Maybe it is the moment before you reject something good, when you pause long enough to ask, "Is this really the truth, or is this the old belief that I am hard to love?"